Good morning. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order today. Cindy, would you please give us the invocation?
I will, thank you. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us from across this state for a singular purpose of the betterment of the children and the educational opportunities for both students and parents across South Carolina. We thank you for the 3 schools that are with us today and all the effort that even unknown to us because it's almost beyond measure, that they put in to bring hope, opportunity, and the ability to learn and achieve across this state. So bless those 3 schools today as we hear from them and are excited about their plans of expansion and quality. We thank you for the opportunity to work in this state with this board and especially with this staff and just the strength of their professionalism and their commitment to this cause. I thank you for this opportunity for all of us to serve each in our own way. I ask this in the name of my Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Dr. Strickland, would you read the mission statement?
The South Carolina Public Charter School District authorizes, champions, and supports the creation and advancement of innovative K-12 public charter schools that provide access to academic opportunities for every student in South Carolina to reach their fullest potential.
And Mr. Secretary, would you take the roll?
Mr. Butcher.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Not present. Mrs. Mosteller.
Here.
Mr. Payne.
Here.
Dr. Pope.
Here.
Dr. Strickland.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Consent agenda. We need approval for the agenda for the meeting today and approval for the minutes from October 13th, 2022, unless there are any corrections.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Are there any public comments?
There aren't any.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Counsel, it's my understanding we are not in need of executive session. We don't need an executive session. Okay, thank you. All right, item 9, action items. Ms. Farmer, Learn for Life Amendment Memo. And before we start, after we go through each one of these schools, the board would like to take a picture with the school representatives. So if you would wait.
Good morning, Chairman Payne, members of the board, and Superintendent Neely. A few months ago, you, the board, expressed that you wanted to gain more familiarity with our schools, learn about the various models they employ, and have the opportunity to build relationships with the school leaders and board members. We listened. We revised the amendment protocol, asking schools with amendments to attend in person, with the exception of extenuating circumstances. This provides a more personal process and discussion format between the board and the school representatives. And of course, eliminates any issues with communication, which we know we've had in the past, bad connections, prohibiting questions from being heard and answered clearly. So with that being said, we'd welcome Dr. Tamila Brown. She's the new principal at Learn for Life Charleston. And as a brand new leader, we've been very impressed with Dr. Brown's willingness to dive right into the position. Yesterday, staff met with Dr. Brown to discuss in depth the school report card. We're planning a visit in December for a comprehensive training and discussion. Learn for Life Charleston is an alternative education campus located in North Charleston, and it's in its 2nd year of operation. The high school targets disengaged students who have dropped out of school, have fallen so far behind due to family and life circumstances, or students who did not experience success in traditional high schools. As you can tell by the students the school serves, they provide a safe space to learn and a pathway to success. The amendment, Learn for Life Charleston and its board requests to call the school Learn for Life High School Charleston. In other words, doing business as Learn for Life High School Charleston. The impetus for this change is the shared belief of the school and its board that the current school name is ambiguous and it fails to clearly identify the school as a South Carolina credentialed high school. The school and its board believe that adding high school to the school's name provides clarity and definition for the school and the community. Additionally, the school maintains that a high school diploma instills a sense of pride, achievement, and validation of the ability of students to achieve success. Staff recommends approval of the request for the school to do business as Learn for Life High School, Charleston. Thank you. Are there any questions? Dr. Brown? This is Dr. Tamila Brown.
First, we need a motion.
Motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Is there any board discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, since she's here, if you would like to say anything.
Would you come to the mic, ma'am?
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. If you drive this far, you should be able to talk.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for an opportunity just to come and talk with you all and to be heard about the change that we're recommending. We want to make sure that our students can walk away with pride in knowing that they have earned a high school diploma and all the criteria that are set before us for that diploma. With our name not having a high school tag on it, it suggests that maybe there's a GED program or some other type of completion program. And so we thought it was important to make sure that our diplomas actually state high school. These are students who are disenfranchised. They have dropped out. Some of them are so far behind and working to catch up they have children, they have family situations. Some of them have been involved in DJJ, and so they're really looking for a second chance, and we are that second chance school. So.
Do you have any questions?
No, that's what we just want to hear, yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much.
I've got one question, and it's, I'm in favor, and I'm going to vote for approval. I'm just curious, what was the catalyst to request this change? Had you been hearing from the public, there was some confusion, we don't know what you are, what started this?
Yes, sir, and I'm new to Charleston as well. Coming into Charleston and soliciting the community so they can understand better what program we offer and what our model looks like. And as a new school, just in our second year, some of our community members said, Learn for Life, is that an insurance company? What is that? Yeah. What do you do? Our facility from the outside doesn't look like a traditional school building as well. And so just having the name without academy or high school or anything that sounds educational attached to it created some initial confusion when we were out in the public at different fairs, just kind of spreading the word about who we are and what we do.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know in some other models similar to this, tell us about how you follow up with students if someone maybe doesn't show up on that fourth day, or what is that kind of protocol like?
Absolutely. So, of course, we're doing some basic attendance calls, but we do call our parents as well as our students. We serve students ages 14 to 21, and so some of them are independent, living independently. So we call and we follow up with them. We bring them in for a meeting and set a success plan for attendance to kind of try to understand if they are lacking a resource or if they just need a reminder call, what's going on in their lives. We offer 2 different opportunities for their schedule schedules, so they can come to us in the morning from 8 to noon, or they can come in the afternoon from noon to 4. And so even trying to understand if something with their schedule or their life situation has changed, we can make that switch and get them into a program that will better fit their time and the needs based on their work schedule, or if they're taking care of a family.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I just want to make a comment. I think it's a wonderful idea. As a former high school principal many, many years ago, one of our students down there at the front, so he looks old now. So, but anyway, it's a brilliant idea because names are so important to dealing with teenagers. You know, how things look or sound or whatever. So I think that will hopefully increase numbers, and it will increase, like you're saying, clarity. So it's very important. So thank you for coming up with that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Then I'll call the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. None opposed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if we can get a picture with you, please. Kristen, next we have Jubilee Charter School Amendment Memo.
Yes, sir. Okay. And that is the second memo in your packet. We'd like to welcome our guests from Jubilee Charter School here for the amendment. And we have Camille Goodson, she is the founding principal, and Kathy Dunleavy, she's the founding committee chair with us here today. Jubilee Charter School, as you may remember, was approved last April and is slated to open in the 23-24 school year. The school's charter contains a memorandum of agreement between Meeting Street Schools and the Jubilee Charter School Founding Committee, granting Meeting Street full autonomy in the operation of Jubilee Charter School. Meeting Street is a donor-funded educational 501c3 that has created one of the top-performing school networks in South Carolina and indeed the nation, almost exclusively enrolling students who arrive at school facing risk factors such as low income, single-parent households, racial or ethnic minority status, neighborhood safety issues, native language or other language literacy challenges, etc. Due to similarities, Jubilee Charter School in Jasper County will be modeled after the Meeting Street Academy's Spartanburg campus, who in 2021 was ranked number 4 in South Carolina elementary schools, scored number 1 in math proficiency, and is made up of 100% economically disadvantaged students. It is also comprised of 97.9% minority students. The school has 2 amendments today. The first amendment, Jubilee Charter Schools Founding Committee requests approval to use the name Meeting Street Schools, Jasper and Beaufort, yet another doing business as. The committee believes that the proven high-quality educational experiences that have been provided by the Meeting Schools Network will ensure credibility, brand awareness, and create the potential for increased enrollment. In addition, the name Meeting Street, followed by naming the communities served, such as Jasper and Beaufort, is consistent with the names of other Meeting Street schools. Jubilee's second amendment, the Jubilee Founding Committee request to adjust the grade level served in the first year of operation. In the charter, it was, they were going to serve 4K in kindergarten in their first year, and they are asking instead to serve kindergarten and first grade in 2023-24, with 2 classes of kindergarten, 2 classes of first grade, for a total of 96 students. The enrollment does not change from what was outlined in the charter. It was determined that the school's sister philanthropic institution, the Jubilee Cooperative Preschool, which was also discussed during the approval process, the preschool will focus, is best suited for 3- and 4-year-old children. The preschool will focus on preparing students for kindergarten. And then the charter school will receive the kindergarten students and implement the K-5 curriculum. The Jubilee Charter School and Jubilee Cooperative Preschool will work closely to provide local parents and families with accessible, quality opportunities and wraparound services, as promised in the charter, clearly choosing to put kids first. Staff recommends approval of the school's request to operate as Meeting Street, Jasper, and Beaufort, and the change to serve grades kindergarten and first grade in the school's 2023-24 inaugural year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Would you like?
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, that opens for board discussion. Just one thing, Kristen, I noticed, and it's not going to affect my vote, but the projections, the enrollment projections form, the numbers are incorrect. In 28-29, you have 336, and that's a correct number, but then you've got 336 on out and then not adding in the additional classes each year. So it should be 384, 432, 480, and whatever the math is, let's see. 480 plus 48, it's 528.
The end one is 528.
I see that. I will make that correction.
It looks as if the, yes, thank you for that. It looks as if the 336 didn't change going across. Am I correct?
Ma'am?
It seems
Yes.
as if, okay.
Yeah, in the year 2032-33 school year, that number should be 528. Again, it doesn't affect my vote, but we need these numbers.
Thank you for that. So just a correction across the bottom.
Yes,
in-
ma'am.
Increasing of the number of students.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Nothing gets by him.
Well, that was kind of easy, but, okay. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
What was the initial reason for naming the school Jubilee, and would it be upsetting to someone to change its original name, or there haven't been any person speaking out against the name change?
Yes. That's a really great question. So we thought initially it would be really easy to choose a name that best would serve the community and the partnership with Meeting Street Schools. So in our decision, we did survey parents in the area asking. We asked questions like, what would be a name of a school in which parents and families could take pride in? We didn't want to take away the Jubilee, but then we got into a conversation with, we're not only serving students in that area in just Jasper, but Beaufort, but we wanted them to feel like it was their school. And Jubilee just only showed half of what happiness and with students and not all of that area. So we wanted to put Jasper and Beaufort into the name and not Jubilee, which is the partnership that we're working with in the community and not showing pride for our families and students.
Yes,
I had a
ma'am.
quick question. I know that there is a similar situation in Spartanburg, right, with the school there. What is that school's name? I can't recall.
Meeting Street, Spartanburg.
So it's Meeting Street, that's how it's laid out, Meeting Street, Spartanburg. So the word charter is not in it, and I know it's not in the Charleston school, obviously, either.
Yes,
Charter.
because they're not charter
not
schools.
charter.
This will be the first charter school working with the Meeting Street Network.
Okay, but the name, the word charter will not be, this is, in a sense, is a little bit new branding for you all.
Yes.
But the name charter will not be in the word charter will not be in the name?
No, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, and is it at all, is it Meeting Street Academy? Tell me exactly what it's going to be. Meeting Street School.
Just Meeting Street, Jasper, Beaufort.
Okay, Meeting Street, not at Jasper Beaufort, just Meeting Street, Jasper Beaufort.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And that, I don't mean to be particular, but that'd be a dash when somebody reads it. When I first read it, it was a little, it seemed a little forced because the dash or something like that. Do you see what I mean?
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
thinking it was at Jasper Beaufort, but it's not. It's going to be Meeting Street,
Jasper, Beaufort.
Jasper Beaufort. Okay, with a dash. That's what I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I've just got one question. What was the catalyst from changing from 2 classrooms of 4K to 2 classrooms, the kindergarten, the change in the grade level adjustment? What caused that? Was it a marketing? Was it the number of students you had applied? What caused the change here?
So we did a deep analysis of the curriculum that we would use for 4K students versus kindergarten students. And within the Meeting Street network, Meeting Street Spartanburg, who we're modeling particularly, there's a completely different curriculum. And we thought about marketing and teachers that we needed. We would need 2 teachers per classroom, and thinking about the professional development for them and being such a small school, we much rather they go through those same trainings together versus being isolated. And everything with our pre-K curriculum is completely different from our kindergarten. So we had a lot of conversations about we would start with kindergarten first, and if we saw the need with our students coming from the preschool that we needed to have them within our school, then we would just demand to go back to pre-K. But for the first year, we want to build strong teachers, and we want them to have the same curriculums and just a chance to grow within our schools so that they can help even shape more teachers or more employees coming within our school. But isolating them would mean 2 separate professional developments, 2 separate trainings, and with just a small school, we want it to be very similar for everyone so that we can coach and teach each other.
This is a good example of the difference between when you're trying to create a school, that's theory, and this is practice. There's a big difference between the two, but I congratulate you on catching it and wanting to make the change on the front end so you don't have problems on the back end.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Pope.
Do you think there may be confusion as to what the organization is if there's not school in the name? If it just says Meeting Street, unless people are familiar with all the other Meeting Street schools, they might not know that this is a school.
We were hoping that our marketing and branding would really make it evident that we are a school, which is why we really wanted to put Meeting Street in there, because of the model in which we can show a lot of examples of what they're doing for students and our schools within that network. So we didn't think that there would be an issue with school not being in there, but throughout our marketing, which will start in a couple of weeks, if we see that that is something where people are not aware that this is a school, then we will come back together to see which changes we need to make. But we're hoping that just having Meeting Street there, that we can market off of what they are doing already, since this will be our first year opening.
I think, Doctor, I appreciate the point you're making. Let me just ask this hypothetical. Because it's a charter, I don't know where that fits in, but this could not be named, I'm not making any recommendation, I'm just asking a question. Meeting Street Academy, when Dr. Pope just said school, so it identifies what it is. It's a school or academy. Neither one of those words are currently going to be or are considered for usage. Is that kind of what you're saying? It's gonna
Yes.
be Meeting Street, like we said. Okay. Because I appreciate the point you're making. Okay.
Yes, and we appreciate that because it was not an easy decision on the name. It took us several weeks several months, lots of thoughts, lots of opinions from not only the Meeting Street Network, but families in the Jasper, Beaufort area before we could decide on a name. So this is all wonderful feedback for us. We want people to feel like this school is a part of them and also to know that we are a school. So I really appreciate your feedback in the name change that we are amending for today.
Dr. Strickland, did you?
No, I was just making sure, and I think the answer, when it opens in 23, 24, it will open with, as you say, the 2 classes of kindergarten and 2 classes of first grade. So that is changed looking, as you saying, the multiples. Okay.
Yes, you're correct.
I was just clarifying that, but it's a great idea. I mean, simply because, like you're saying, and as Mr. Chairman stated, it's opening and you got to coordinate it and you put the teachers together and it's going to be easier for staff development and all that. So
Thank you.
it's a good idea.
Well, and to address the concerns or the questions of the 2 ladies on the board, it is a moving target. And once you get in there with your marketing team and start getting feedback, if it's not working, you can always change it. You can always come back here and we can deal with this again, but you're making an effort, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if we can get a picture real quick. All right, Kristen, next up is Liberty STEAM Charter School Amendment Memo.
It's our pleasure to welcome the group from Liberty STEAM Charter School. Joining us virtually, we have Liberty STEAM's Board Chair, Mr. Thompson, and we have Dr. Trevor Ivy, Executive Director and School Founder, here with us today. Dr. Ivy, do you want to come up and introduce your large group of team?
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you, Superintendent Neely, and Board of Trustees. Would love to introduce the other members of our team. It's very pertinent to the reason why we're appearing before you today, and so would love to emphasize the capacity building that our team has already initiated for site number 2. We are excited about our expansion, and so I'd love to share who has joined me today. So the director of our elementary academy, Sally Harris.
Hi.
Our academic counselor, Micah Bond. Our instructional coach, Emily Hatfield. From our network team, we have Dixie Hardy, our managing director of operations. Also to join us from our board of directors, she is also an original member of the Charter Planning Committee, Ms. Cammie Chandler. And then our finance folks that keep us straight, we have 2 joining us today, working in a consultant capacity, David Lodeholt and Mr. Gant Williams.
Welcome. Welcome, Greg.
When Liberty STEAM Charter School began building its brand identity, the school chose the torch to symbolize hope. just like the Statue of Liberty. In the annual report, the school states, "The torch is a constant reminder of the power of choice scholars and families now have." Liberty STEAM is one of the highest performing schools as a result of effective leadership, innovation, an engaging STEAM curriculum, family engagement, and strong community partnerships. The school's website delivers this powerful message. In creating a charter school where rigor, joy, and community are the essential keys to success, we are on a mission to change the narrative about what is possible for the children of Sumter County so that every child is equally positioned to succeed emotionally, academically, and socially. If you've had a chance to look through the annual report that Liberty provided, and I included in your packet, you would inevitably see all the ways in which Liberty has been successful not only in school performance, but in putting kids first. The First Amendment. The school wishes to delay the addition of fourth grade in the 23-24 school year and rather requests to add a 4-year-old preschool, 4 classes of 20 students, at its Early Learning Academy of the Aldersgate location, beginning in the 24-25 school year. The Board of Directors believes that an investment in early learning with the addition of the 4-year-old preschool will result in more students entering kindergarten at higher readiness levels, allowing the school to achieve its ambitious goal of 85% grade level proficiency beginning in kindergarten. The Second Amendment, Liberty STEAM's second request is to begin the renovation of the former JCPenney store in the Sumter Mall to house the elementary academy. Features of the state-of-the-art elementary academy include 18 classrooms, 2 intervention rooms, 2 office suites, a multi-purpose room, a gated driveway and parking lot, and a playground area. Upon completion, the elementary academy will have a collective square footage of 59,330. I'm going to have Dr. Ivy explain Phase 1 and Phase 2 in better detail than I can do.
Sure. I'd be happy to share a little bit more. We have engaged in our tabletop exercise with the Office of School Facilities and the South Carolina Department of Transportation, and upon their advice, we will be dividing the renovation project into 2 phases. The reason behind dividing it into 2 phases is to ensure that, quite frankly, we are ready to go on the first day of school, first Monday in August of next year, for the 300 scholars that will be moving from our current location at 15 School Street to be educated in grades 2 and 3. And if you know the mall, the former JCPenney as it exists now will be the existing elementary academy for grades 2 and 3. 4th grade, if approved today, would not be added until 2 years from now, which will be Phase 2. Phase 2 will begin just a few months after Phase 1, but it will not be entirely ready, a separate wing of 7,000 square feet, until October of next year. So we'll have Phase 1, Phase 2. Phase 1 essentially guarantees that we are able to receive the CO so that we can begin educating scholars on the first day of school while being ready, more than ready, for 4th grade just a few months later.
The school will finance the renovation with a loan and estimated annual payments of $250,000, along with putting at least $200,000 in the reserve fund. As a result of the expansion and realignment, Liberty will be required to hire a significant number of lead teachers, teaching fellows, and a second operations team to staff the elementary academy. District operations staff reviewed the proposed facility amendments and found that the school has proposed well-constructed school design and construction schedule. District finance staff review found that Liberty finished the 2021-22 school year with a net position of almost $100,000 and a fund balance of over $328,000. The school is anticipating student growth from 288 students this year to 600 in the 23-24 school year. The combination of student growth and the new funding formula results in a projected net income of over $478,000 for the year, adding to the previous fund balance to date. Liberty continues to show financial stability as the school continues to grow. After a thorough review, staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, we need a motion.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
All right. Is there any board discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to comment on this, which I know you have a lot to say, but I think Polaris and now Meeting Street and STEAM is the case you're seeing that to vertically build down the silo is important. In other words, to get those children in your system as early as is reasonably possible with what you're doing.
Absolutely. I would echo the comments that have been well publicized by our founding board of directors who explained the rationale as a pivot. When the decision was made in April of this past year to move forward with adding fourth grade, you know I just appeared before you not too long ago, we did not have our end of the year proficiency scores. So what we realized, what our dreamers realized, was that our scholars who entered in at a same KRA, Kindergarten Readiness Assessment rating, as the local school district, virtually the same level playing field. In 190 days, we were able to move those children from the low 30s to roughly 76% proficiency. One of our 12 organizational goals is to ensure that 85% of our scholars are grade level proficient by the end of the year. So we missed the mark, and our dreamers realized that, hey, what we espoused in our initial charter application to this authorizer was the investment of early education, but it was more of a defining moment in their logic, and to your point about the downward investment. If we could just have 1 year. Now, granted, we're not able to guarantee all of our preschool scholars a spot, right? We have to go through the lottery process just like any other charter school. But if we're able to start building those relationships now, and we have 48 families that we currently serve who will have a 4-year eligible scholar 2 years from now. So we've more than demonstrated that there's a need just with our current families. Mm-hmm. So if we can work that, we will be on a much better pathway to deliver on the promise that we have written about in our charter application.
And I have one other quick follow-up. Could you just, this is so impressive, could you just comment on some of these scores? And when you say first grade STEAM, it's 83%. Just describe to me what that is, but I know these are accomplishment statistics, so could I just hear?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like any other public school, we have our student learning objective, our SLO, our enrichment classes, which are a huge part of our model. 2 hours extra in the school day. We have a longer school day so that our scholars can experience what many would write off as experiences that children that we serve should actually be entitled to. And some of those are dance, STEAM, physical education, art, Spanish. This year we're adding French, yoga, and so forth. And so our teachers have to be creative and have an SLO, a way that we are gauging a beginning of the year proficiency level in STEM. We use the curriculum project Lead the Way, which is internationally vetted. So there is an actual assessment that scholars take in the beginning of the year. Sally Harris was actually the enrichment teacher last year for our Project Lead the Way class. And so it's an assessment similar to any other assessment that you can score easily to get a data point, but there's also some performance objectives there. And so 83% you highlighted was the end of the year proficiency score for that particular STEM class. But if you come to Liberty, we hide nothing. Data is right outside every teacher's classroom. We are very clear when folks are hired into our organization that we have to listen to the data. The data tells a clear story if we're willing to listen. And so outside every teacher's classroom is their current data snapshot of where scholars are in the moment, whether that be MAP, whether that be their end of the module assessment for Eureka or EL for reading, but we have to follow that data.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to comment. Liberty STEAM is what right looks like. I mean, this school's just 2 years old, but when you look at the leadership capacity, the instructional alignment inside the building, when you look at the culture, when you look at the way that they collaborate in the community, even with the local school district, they are literally changing the narrative. And I've poked at their chairman a few times, and I said, Greg, I'd love to see more liberties around the state. And I know y'all are focused on Sumter, but this is a model for the way this should be done. This is what we are looking for as a district for new applicants. And so Liberty, their torch is held high. That's the way it should be. And I appreciate their hard work and the fact that they set a priority to close the achievement gap. So thank you.
Trevor, what's your wait list?
Currently, for this current academic school year, it's 589 just for this year. Now, in our charter application, we do not accept scholars after the 5th week of school. And so we believe that culture is priority, and so we have held firm to that. And for next year, we already have exceeded the number of applications that are needed right now to hold a lottery. So if you are not aware of how we do our enrollment at Liberty, we do a fall push and we do a spring push. One of our organizational goals is to have 2 applications for every seat that we are going to serve. You got to have a healthy wait list. History has taught us that. And so right now, as of this morning, there are 169 kindergarten applications for 150 slots for next year. And then we have more than exceeded what we appear to have for attrition for next year. But that's with a 93% persistence rate from last year.
That's not a bad problem to have. When I was involved with a charter school, helping start a charter school in the Low Country, we were begging for students. We eventually got them, and now they're very successful. But at first, it was tough. These guys are knocking it out of the park. For the edification of some of our newer board members, I had the opportunity. Gosh, I forgot how many years ago it was, 3 or 4 years ago, when this concept was first thrown about. I went to some meetings and explained the whole process of what it takes and what a Herculean task it is. And I left that meeting, and I thought, these guys are going to knock it out of the park, and they did. They're the Houston Astros of charter schools right now. And I'm not just saying that because I know Trevor, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up his skirt, but it's the truth. And I just want to echo what our superintendent said. These guys are doing it right. They have assembled a top-notch team. They've drawn people from all over the country, and they're doing it right. So I applaud you.
I have one other question.
Yes.
Could you just comment, because I know there's so much in the, we read today about parents and the relationship with their children's schools and transparency and those kind of things. How would you describe the relationship that Liberty STEAM has with the parents of your students?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are big on customer service, right? We exist to deliver a product. At the end of the day, we are delivering a product. And if we don't keep a pulse check on the customers that we serve, then we are doing this in vain and echoing a commitment to continual improvement. I think that being with the project since day one, parent engagement is single-handedly the #1 success of Liberty STEAM. And I attribute that to the fact that we've done a great job, but our team has done a great job of not only being willing to actively solicit feedback from parents and multiple times, over 12 to 15 times in the course of a school year, but making it a big deal to act on that feedback. And so hands down, it's been the #1 success story. Our social media, I think, has a lot to do with that. Our parents want to know that the decision that they made to put their child at Liberty has been the best decision. And so we're constantly taking a pulse check on our parents' attitudes, perceptions, and getting them into the building. We're excited. Sally has gotten our volunteer service hour component off the ground this year. All parents are required to give 10 hours of volunteer service, and being very creative in non-traditional, traditional ways to get parents involved. It's been another huge win. We were not able to get that up and running last year, but again, customer service. We make no qualms about it. Anybody that comes into our organization, we exist to deliver a product, and we've got to ensure that that product is acceptable to the customer.
Dr. Pope?
Yes. How do you ensure diversity and inclusion using the lottery system, and what are your current demographics?
Speak to DEI specifically about what? On the tail end of your question, I didn't hear that part.
How do you use the lottery system? I know that there's a lottery system to use, but how do you make sure that that lottery system
Great
is
question.
working for you, including making sure that you have a diverse population?
One of our 12 organizational goals is to ensure that Liberty is a reflection of the community it serves. And specifically, the goal is 65% of scholars coming from a low socioeconomic background, and 60% of our scholars identifying as a minority. Our marketing and recruitment approach has gone from what we thought billboards would do it to, it's very clear, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, and going to the grocery store, barbershops, nail salons. Dixie, our managing director of operations, manages the individual, and they work collaboratively together to ensure that we meet that goal. Just 2 weeks ago, on our half-day professional development, our entire operations team canvassed several local neighborhood apartment complexes, and in 2 hours, and 32 applications for the lottery. So to answer your point, we are very strategic about where we go in the community. If you just bank on a link on the website for parents to apply, you are going, research has told us, you're going to get a particular population of parents, and then we're not going to be in compliance, right? And then more importantly, we're not standing for this beacon of hope. We're not doing anything about this torch that we say so much about. And so we're very proud. This year, our poverty went up 10 percentage points in terms of the scholars that qualify for free or reduced. Last year, it was 60%. This year, it is 70% of our children qualify for free or reduced lunch, and 60% of our scholars identify as a minority.
Thank you.
Dr. Strickland?
Just a comment. I think, you know, the data, and as a former superintendent, you know, that has to drive, and y'all do a marvelous, wonderful job. But I think the other thing, Mr. Mosteller thought about the end of the year engagement statistics with the lowest 96%. Well, I think we would all be anything we do if we have 96% of people agree in the world we live in on anything. So that statistics are marvelous. And even there, I think y'all are doing a good job of the whole child, showing the power of the team and making them volunteer and doing the service learning. So what a great job. Thank you for what all of you do.
All right, I'll call the motion. All in favor of approval of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're getting better.
Yeah.
We get this down.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what you do it a couple dozen times.
Yeah. These little, they're slippery, they'll have to be careful. I guess in heels.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, man.
Not to go in.
You got rubber soles?
Yeah.
All right. Next on the agenda, Michael, is the October financials.
So, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Neely, members of the board, before I jump into the financials, I want to do give you the meat and potatoes on the audit. I know that's very interesting right now since we're in Thanksgiving season. We have good news and bad news, okay? Our draft should be completed on the district side. Our draft should be completed by Monday. We talked to the auditors on Friday. They'll do a review over the next 2 weeks. We should be getting a letter of signature via on Thanksgiving week. We're still waiting on 2 schools, Next and PD. The deadline for those schools is this Friday. We really want to get those schools in our financial statements because we don't want those schools to impact our opinion on our financial statements. We've been in contact with those schools. Our auditor has been in contact with the schools firms as well. They think they can get it to us by Friday, and we can get the draft in.
As in tomorrow?
This Friday, exactly, yes. So we'll get our draft financial statements next week. We need those schools in our audit. We had 4 schools that were late in this audit round. They will receive corrective action letters. We're still waiting on 2. Again, hopefully those will get tomorrow. Superintendent Neely, you want to add any gravy to that?
You know, for a year, we've been talking with the schools about the importance of getting these audits in on time. You know, we gave them an October 15th deadline. Some of them didn't meet it. We gave them an extension until November 1st. I think there's still a lot of work to be done with these auditing firms, quite frankly. You know, we're gonna talk about potentially having a workshop with the auditing firms and the financial teams in each of the schools, and really help them understand that our audit can't be complete without theirs. You know, their audit is actually pretty simple. It's kind of a nonprofit audit, but our audit is so much more comprehensive because it involves all the federal and state programs. And of course, we can't run a true trial balance without our schools audits. Now, it does make us unique in South Carolina when it comes to school districts. Other school districts don't have to wait on 38 other audits to come in, right, Dr. Pope?
That's right.
That's right.
So it is more complicated, and we're being asked by the state to meet the same deadline, December 1st. I'm hopeful that maybe with the new administration coming in January, that will be an opening to have a conversation about viewing charter schools a little differently in terms of how the audit process should work, and maybe give our schools and our district maybe another 30, 60 days just because of the complex nature of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, we're looking to do a special called board meeting, probably the 28th, 29th, or 30th, to get our audit approved and then get it to the State Department by deadline. So,
What, you talk about corrective action. What does that do? Is there any teeth to that? Because honestly, I've had enough. I've had enough.
we talked on the call. You were on the call as well.
I am.
Currently, there's not a lot of teeth there. But with the new administration, like Chris was saying, we can hope to get some more.
Do we have the authority to construct our own teeth? Because I'm just
Attorney's here, so.
like Chris said, their audits are in the audit world are relatively simple. They're nowhere as complex as ours, and I look at obviously financials as important as governance and as academics. And if they can't get a simple audit done, it makes me question their ability to do anything else. And I've had enough. They're causing us to have potentially a bad audit. And as chairman of this board, I don't feel that I can stand for that.
I can just address it a little bit from the authority standpoint. This is something that, Michael and everybody on the leadership team and I have worked with a lot. The problem is really there's not a lot of teeth that don't bite really hard. There's not a lot in between. There's obviously revocation, which is an extreme action. There are corrective actions that, we think we could potentially push for that may be subject to some legal challenge, but we could push for. The problem with all of those is that they're all after the fact. all of those corrective actions are, the audit's already late, So what we've really been focused on is looking for something, and the easiest way I can explain it, the easiest model we have is something similar to what we try to do on the special education side. We've seen a lot of success with this over the last years. We've not talked a lot about special education compliance with this board over the last few years, and there's a good reason for that. One of the things that Emily Paul and her team and all of the special education team does is, at the first instance of noncompliance, the corrective action plans are geared not only towards addressing what happened in the past, but making sure it doesn't happen in the future. So the idea is to come up with something, a corrective action plan that would sort of ensure that the schools that did not meet the deadline this year were meeting interim deadlines next year, to get them ahead of the game so that they are not even last minute. And some of the thought process is even looking at some of the schools that were last minute this year. So this year we had 2 deadlines, for example. There was an initial deadline, and then there was sort of this drop dead deadline. But those that sort of fell in that gap between the two, providing some additional support, some additional interim deadlines for them to make sure they're not pushing to the last line. It's a delicate balance because some of this really is not the school's fault. I mean, some of it, some of it is, it falls on auditing firms. Some of it is inexplicable. We've got auditing firms that are telling us that they don't have capacity to get an audit done for one particular school, but they're getting it done for other schools across the state. And we're not sure why. We just don't have visibility into that. Some of it is waiting to the last minute. So I hope, as to authority, I think the district does have authority to craft corrective action plans that are geared towards creating a schedule that will limit the chances, but I don't think you're ever going to eliminate all of this unless the department gives some flexibility on the ultimate deadline to take some pressure off of the schools and the auditing firms, because nothing's going to change the June 30th deadline for end of the fiscal year. Everything comes off of that deadline. So, if you've got June 30th as the end of the fiscal year and December 1, that December 1 deadline, there's nothing magic about that December 1 deadline. I mean, it's unilaterally set by the department. That's where the flexibility could be provided, but not by us. It would have to be provided by the department. June 30th can't change. And they, in fact, did change it during COVID, which Michael rightly pointed out. So I hope that answers the question about authority. I do think there's some things. It is infinitely better now. Using the 2 different deadlines, down to 3 or 4 schools that really fell to the end. We got a lot more in ahead. But I think we're going to have to be a little more proactive in that window from June 30th to just have these schools that are late, maybe even choose auditors that they may not otherwise prefer.
But it seems like what Chris is saying is a very big deal, because if auditors were confident in this specific type of, setup, then you're saying that the auditors might be the issue, because the schools are then having to communicate with the auditors. But if it was more streamlined like that,
We want to bring them in and tell them how important it is, because it impacts our opinion as well. They already have a required audit list that they can only select auditors from that list, but we're still having problems with those firms as well on that list.
Dr. Strickland.
Yeah. I think it's important what Superintendent Neely was saying, that is probably an advantage because so many use the same thing. If it was spread out between charter schools and public schools, it would have been an advantage for everybody concerned. So that's something, as we have beginning of a new superintendent and their staff, and also a new legislative year, that there will be several things that could be brought up to each group to improve that, because it's something there. And then if you had a little more teeth, as the chairman said, then you can do something about it. But everyone, you have a list that only you can use, and everybody uses the list because you want someone good and you're used to, but they probably don't have the staff or whatever to get that done. So I think with some comments from you and from the group, that could happen at the State Department and maybe some other things.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add too, I don't remember when, Michael, we met, but we went and met with Molly
It was
and her
last year,
finance team.
around this time, yeah.
Yeah, this time last year. And we expressed to them the concern we had about the December 1st date. And we reminded them that the statewide authorizers are different because we have to wait on all these other schools to get their audits in. So, but that is on our list for the new state superintendent. So,
I hear she's got big ears.
yeah, I hear she's going to be here this afternoon. So
That's what I heard too.
I plan to talk with her about it.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, but we'll get through it.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the October financial reports. After 4 months of operation, we expect about 67% of the budget remaining. We're currently at 71%, so a little ahead of the game there. The first report is district office and school payments. Total revenue 51,124,16. Expenditures of 50,996,834 for a net difference of 127,582. The next report is district office only. You see total revenues for the year 1,189,056. Total expenditures of 1,085,895 for a net change of 103,161. That will bring our fund balance to 1.9 million estimated right there. That'll be updated with our next financial statements coming out. Next report is division only. You'll see total leadership of 429,661. Sponsor performance of 138,369, support and implementation of 227,043, and then financial services and operations of 298,21 for a net remaining of 71% of the budget. The next report is EIA from the State Department. You'll see our total allocation is now at $180,080,222.07. The next report lists all of those programs for the same total, $180,080,222.07. And then this report, this is our Q2 report, graphical of our total state revenue. You'll see in October 21, we are at $13.9 million. We're currently right at $15 million for October 22. And then we'll update that through the remaining quarter for November and December. The last report is very telling report for our EIA allocation. You'll see in July we were paid, that was based on prior 135, 175. Continued at 176, and you'll see the jump at 5-day to 179. So that's the change from 5th day counts. They will remain at right now we're at 180,080,222.07 cents. We're looking for a change probably in November. Well, the schools have left, but they're not be happy about this. But the 45-day counts are wrapping up right now. The State Department won't get that updated by November payments, which will be in another week or so. So they'll get the change in revenue in December, and then it will update again at 135. Mr. Chairman, that completes my report for the month of October.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the financial reports as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Page, Policy Subcommittee report.
Sure. As a point of information, just want to let the board know that the committee was unable to meet due to a couple of things. Council was involved with several other pressing matters that he needed to attend to, and then I had a major conflict that made it impossible for me to be able to convene that meeting. But we will look forward to looking at new things in December and presenting more to the board at our December meeting. Just as a reminder, each of the board members do have a copy of what we have gone through with the first section of the draft, and would invite comments and suggestions from the other board members to be submitted to council in the coming days. And with that, just want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions for Randy? All right, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, why don't you come on down? Louis, come on up.
Louis?
Oh.
Louis, come on. Yeah, come on up here.
Been good knowing you.
Yeah. So one thing that we instituted at the district a few years ago is we wanted to make sure and honor employees who have demonstrated great dedicated service to the district. And so today we're going to celebrate Louis' 5-year anniversary with the district. So let's give Louis a round of applause. Louis provides great insight to us on the world. I'm not going to give her the mic. You'll hear all kinds of things about her adventures in life, but Louis is a great collaborator, and she brings great spirit to the district, and we appreciate your professionalism and your dedication. This is just a small part, a representative of what you've done for the district, but it means a lot to all of us. So thank you.
I love my district.
Did you want to say anything?
No, just that.
Okay.
I love you.
All right.
I don't think I need a mic.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Board, at this time I'd like to call John Arpane up for our sponsor performance update.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yesterday you received an email with a couple of attachments from Superintendent Neely. Michael talked about being the meat and potatoes. I guess I'm going to be the sweet potato pie and the pumpkin pie because this is good stuff. So, as you all know, November the 1st, letters of intent were due from potential folks wanting to think about starting and applying for charter schools and submitting charter school applications. Our district received 20 letters of intent that were sent to us, and you should have in your tab letters of intent the listing of those schools. As you'll see from this list, it's a variety of places, a variety of models, a variety of grade bands, a few that are virtual, and a few specifically green that are replication schools. We're really excited about the potential that these communities will or may offer. And so we did receive that. As part of that, 3 of the schools applied to other entities for authorization. We had one that applied to 2 traditional school districts and then 2 other schools that applied to another statewide authorizer. But we did want to provide this information to you about these schools. We have queued up for next Tuesday our pre-applicant training. And these folks have already been invited to that training to spend a day with us where we go and talk through the application. We're going to give them a kind of the David Letterman top 10. Don't forget these things in your application, like letters to your local delegation. So we're all geared up and prepared for that. We're excited to have these folks come in and join. And then we will work with them between now and February and wait to see which of these schools submit applications to us and then be geared to rock and roll looking at those applications and making some decisions to hopefully add in as much quantity but certainly quality to our portfolio of schools. Any questions about our letters of intent that we've received so far?
Aren't these significantly more than in terms of quality? Is this many?
Well, for us, I've seen what, in the past, John wasn't here yet. I don't even know if Chris was here. I mean, some years I think gross applications were maybe 25 to 30. Now, they were winnowed down off of that, but
Yeah, I didn't
we've
recall
seen,
this many.
yeah,
There were, as Chris just shared with me, since this was a little bit before my tenure, there were 21 LOIs last year, and then I think we had 5 applications, and then one, as you recall, withdrew, and then we approved the other 4.
Thank you.
So, but we are excited about these models. Ms. Farmer and Ms. Kingsbury have already had, with several of these schools, a number of discussions already, and providing them with resources and information and that sort of thing. So we're excited and to be training these folks, and then wait and see who applies with us in February. The next thing I wanted to mention is you also have under this, behind the sponsor performance page, you have kind of 2 documents. One, which is just an overall picture. As you probably know, on October 17th, the South Carolina Department of Education released for the first time since 2019 the annual school report cards. This was, of course, after COVID, as you know, in fall of 2020 and then fall of 2021. Some information was provided, but no ratings or rankings or that sort of thing was done. You can see in this, what we have provided to you is, in the very first page, is kind of a breakdown of the schools for the 21-22, and then we go back to the 18-19 and 17-18, which were the other 2 years report cards were issued, to give you an illustration in terms of the numbers of schools. Now, of course, some of our schools, for example, a K-12 school will get 3 report cards because the department does it by school, by grade band. So some of our schools you'll see getting 1 or more report cards to reflect their elementary, middle, and/or high school program. So we did have 14 schools that scored excellent, 14 schools that scored good, and 16 schools that scored average. Which is average, is meeting kind of the bar that the Department of Education, working with Education Oversight, has set. We have 14 schools in below average, and then we had 5 schools in unsatisfactory. As you look down that same column of unsatisfactory, you'll know that we have fewer schools scoring in unsatisfactory, which is exactly what we want to happen. We want them to be moving up towards good schools. The next page, next few pages has that basically gives you the report card, and it provides for you the school name, and they're broken down by elementary, middle, and high. It provides the school name, their overall rating, which is, again, excellent to unsatisfactory, and then it provides you the rating for the 5 indicators that were measured. Where and when you see not rated, it means that the school did not either have the group or subgroup size sufficient for the department to run the calculation. They may have had students who, completed an assessment, for example, but if that number was too small, typically it's 20 per group or subgroup, the department doesn't publicly release that so as not to have any possibility of there being personally identifiable information. So you see that breakdown in terms of elementary, middle, and high schools for the academic report cards. I will say that when the report cards came out on October 17th, we had already engaged and were working with several of our schools, and we spent a lot of time advocating and calling back the department. The department, at our advocacy, actually went back and reran some numbers based upon some quirky things we were seeing, and they re-released those report cards or updated those report cards on October 27th, which caused several of our schools to improve in their ratings once the department went back and recalculated. So we're very proud of our advocacy on that, and certainly our collaboration with the department in making sure that the report card data as presented was as accurate as can be. And with that, that's all the points I have. Yes, sir.
Obviously, this is the first time report cards have been issued since I've been on this board. So I had a question specifically related to, a number of the schools that on school climate received unsatisfactory. Is there like a document that goes into what are the gauges for each one of these sections so that we know when it says unsatisfactory on school climate? I mean, obviously, some of these are very deductible, you can figure it out.
Right.
But school climate, what is that measuring? is there an objective measurement there?
Sure. So when the report cards first came out in this new system, the department procured an outside vendor to provide an engagement survey that schools administered to all of their students, which was, and I think even Superintendent Spearman has said, was a complete disaster. And so during those years for which the department did not release report cards, they were looking at, well, what could we place in lieu of this student engagement survey? In South Carolina, we've been administering this climate survey since the late 1980s. It includes a teacher survey, a parent survey, and a student survey. And Dr. Diane Monrad, who is the director for the South Carolina Educational Policy Center, has analyzed the data for, gosh, now I guess that's about 40 years ago, in terms of looking at all of the data. And so the EOC, working with the department, elected to say, since we're already doing this student climate survey, let's use that for accountability purposes as well. The issue this particular year is that there was some late notices coming out and some conflicting information, so I'm not really sure that students were all able to readily and easily do it, and that's the same holds true for our teachers and parents, just because of the administration procedures that the department uses. And I think that's really contributing to some of the not rated as well as the lower ratings that have been used. But these are questions, or it's a survey that's sent to student to asking about, do you feel included at school? Just those climate questions about students feeling like they belong at school.
Thank you.
Are you saying that the school climate is only about what students think, or no? Is that what you just said?
Yes, ma'am. So what the department uses, so the federal government gives each state an ability to have a school quality or a student success indicator that the states can choose. And so when the report card first came out back, even prior to the first release, there was really an appetite because a lot of the times it's information about children. How they did on assessment, how they did in terms of graduation. And there was at the time an appetite to say, well, let's have children's voice as part of this system too, because they are our ultimate focus in everything we do, think, say, and believe. And so this is just reflective of that student survey for the accountability purposes.
I think it'd be helpful to maybe to indicate that. Because when I saw it, I thought, okay, they're asking teachers, they're asking administrators, they're asking students. And I have one other question about this. Since this is so specific, I mean, it's kind of specific in these adjectives, or however we want to call them, would it be helpful for us to see, since you already got the data this year, next year, so we see this is this year compared to what the school, is that the EVOS kind of thing?
Right.
How's the school tracking? So we can we do that in the budget, and it'd be nice to see if we move in directionality put into it.
Yes, ma'am.
That would not be too hard. And that'd probably be 8.5 by 17.
Right. That's right.
But anyway.
Well, I will say that we're pleased. I introduced her here several months ago, Dr. Jingtong Charlesworth, who is our statistics manager. Jingtong has spent probably the last 2 months or so really going back through, and she's working right now on a 6-year data file with our SC Ready and end of course examination by subject, by grade, by subgroup. Make sure I got them all. Yeah, by grade, by subject, by subgroup, to look at those trends across by school across 6 years of performance, so that we can really begin diving in and looking at trends, at movement, at successes, at opportunities for us to go in, and particularly if there's a specific subgroup that is underperforming, not only compared to their counterpart peers, but also just kind of underperforming against the state, against the district. It gives us that real ability. So this year, if you were at the Kids First conference and you heard Dr. Risby talk about the basics, that's what Dr. Charlesworth is doing, is we're building out the basics of the databases so that as we go forward, we simply add another year of data to it and can continue to watch and maybe even make some predictions about where we are and where we're going.
I have one other question. How is this information used? You loop back to the schools with this so they know where they are in this and what that means? And
Yes, ma'am.
other-
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
In fact, my team and I are going down to meet with Dr. Brown to go through her data and look at it and identify, opportunities for really them to attend to hopefully improve some of the results that were on theirs. I will say just one little brief note, make sure I've got everything here. The high school, and this is one of the things that sometimes folks are not keenly aware of, the academic achievement is not based on how our school's students did last year. It's how our school's graduating seniors did whenever and wherever they took the end of course exam. So if a student took a algebra end of course exam in 8th grade in another school and school district, when they get to be that senior that final year, they're counted for wherever they're ending their school career at. So it is a cohort model as opposed to just how we did last year. And that's just, I always find that important to kind of underline that point, because in this instance, when you look at the achievement for our high schools, it's reflective of a period that is pretty much from 2016 to spring 2022. If you think about all the potential times that students could take an end of course exam.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I want to just call out John because when we discovered that there were some issues with the data for some of our schools, the Department of Education, they ran the entire report card again at John's request because we knew there were issues. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to believe we would publish a report card knowing that data was incorrect. But I wanted to just do a shout out to John and his team for the work they put into that. Hopefully, there won't be those issues going forward. And then in terms of the cohort model, the problem I have with the way we do it in our state, and I'm hoping maybe with the EOC and our new state superintendent, we can look at it, each year, so it's in real time for the student, so it can actually help us inform our instructional leaders in the building, in the classroom, on how they can help that child. It doesn't help if it's information that occurred 4 or 5 years ago. Many of these kids have already graduated and moved on, and we never got a chance to really know how they were performing at that time. So I hope we as a state can start to look at this data a little bit differently so that it does inform instruction, curriculum, and our instructional best practices in the schools. At this time, we'll have Michael Tom for a finance and operations update.
Real briefly, add a little salt and pepper to the meat and potatoes. Sorry, I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. Cheese and butter. Oh, peas. We forgot veggies, too. We don't have veggies. What's our Leaders Summit? What's the estimated number? 108. Okay, so we're preparing for 108 folks to come in next week. This is a big thing for us logistically, parking, security, vendors. So they'll be in the building next week and all this preparation involved with that. That's a biggie for next week. A couple events coming up. Sarah's going to be here on the December 2nd. They're doing a Teaching Fellows Campus Directors meeting. MAC is taking advantage of our building. They'll be here 3 times. They have a musical performance on the 2nd. They have a student winter showcase on the 15th, and then a holiday luncheon on the 16th. So we received a final gutter quote. We got to replace the gutters on the building. That's important. We got to get the water off the building because it caused some repair issues with flooring back here. So I have a final quote, just a matter of getting them on the schedule. You know how contractors are. Fence project is ready to go. They promised me the middle of November, so we'll get started on the fence project and get moving on that. And then we're also verifying the 45-day numbers. That's important. We do a variance analysis on all of our schools to make sure there's no wild number craziness going on before we send that over to the State Department. That'll be in the middle of November. That's it for me, sir.
Yeah, we love having the building open for all of our schools, and I think we'll continue to see more and more of our schools take advantage of this free public opportunity to display their school, whether it's a graduation or a performance. This is their district office. It's the community's district office, and so we will continue to open it to the community. At this time, we'll have a support and implementation update report from Emily Baker.
I'm happy to share with you today just a glimpse into our past month. However, Tracy Sweet decided that there is nowhere else she'd rather be on her birthday than today.
Aw.
So when you see Tracy later, make sure you wish her a happy birthday. We have been on the road the past month. We've been in some airplanes and some cars. We've put a lot of miles on our cars this month. So as you know, we believe in professional development. We are lifelong learners ourselves, and we like to model that for our schools. So this month is a true capture of that. Some of those highlights are a large team of us attended NACSA's National Conference in Minnesota a couple weeks ago. Susan represented our team at the South Carolina Charter Alliance Conference last week in Spartanburg. She presented there a session on improving multilingual learner outcomes. Tracy and Tatiana attended a Title I Administrators Conference, a state Title I Administrators Conference a couple weeks ago in Myrtle Beach. Wendy just got home from Arkansas, where she attended an international conference that's put on by the Council for Exceptional Children. Currently today, Becky Higgins is in Myrtle Beach, right? At SCASBO as well. She's taken some classes on school business officials. So we like to model that for our schools, and which brings me to the next slide. As y'all know, we went into a contract with NWEA to offer a formative MAP assessment to our schools 2 years ago using ESSER 3 funds. The feedback that we received from our schools last year was we were ready to move from the basic MAP professional development offerings, and we were ready to go deeper. So we are now face-to-face with this offering. Last year we were virtual. We have decided to go, like I said, deeper into the offerings that NWEA offers. We're trying to take advantage of the depth of their knowledge to share with our schools. We are doing that through regional trainings, regional locations. So we have a location in Beaufort, a location in Aiken, and a location in Spartanburg. The thought behind that is that our school teachers and leaders have less time to travel, and having the same training offered 3 times allows a smaller school that can only relinquish one teacher or one leader at a time. Multiple people within that staff can take advantage of that. So just last week, we wrapped up our second regional offering, which was applying reports. So we had over 11,000 students that took the fall MAP assessment. That has just wrapped up. So we now have data in front of us that NWEA, face-to-face with our teachers and leaders, said, okay, now we have this data, what are we gonna do with it? So they took time learning how to analyze those reports to now inform instruction. Upcoming with NWEA, we are offering a 4-part cohort within our office that will begin in December. That's going deep into responsive teaching and learning, as well as our next regional offering will be in December as well. And then finally, some things of note. Audits don't just live in finance, they also live in programs. So Susan and her team have completed and submitted an Indicator 13 audit at the end of October. The reason I wanted to bring this in front of you today is to note that our special population is growing as we continue to grow. We are now considered a large district for special ed reporting. Therefore, on this audit, the new piece of this Indicator 13 audit was previously, before being named a large district, we reported data on 10 students, so we gave them like a case study pile of 10 students for them to analyze and report back on. We now report 20 students. So that was submitted in October. Just so you know, as of this morning, fresh numbers for our SPED population is we serve 2,177 students, which is about 12% of our population. Another large feat that we completed just on November 1st was our consolidated monitoring site visit. So this was a site visit to our district office where they kind of state department officials got their hands dirty in some files as well as some electronic items, as well as a site visit to East Point Academy. And within that audit, they reviewed Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. So that's a collective effort by Susan's team, Tracy's team, Michael's team, Nick's team. So it is a programmatic and finance kind of all hands on deck for that. I'm happy to say that we received very positive feedback, and we believe no findings. So we're good. So thank you to these people for taking care of that. And then finally, Federal Programs University. So Tracy has pivoted her school offering for professional development into kind of a university collective model where she's kind of scaffolding information and building capacity for our schools and our leaders. That university has a total of 10 sessions. It's a mixture of face-to-face and virtual sessions, and she's completed 2 of those sessions, and just next week she has her 3rd session. So if you would ever like to pop online or visit and learn some things about federal programs, I know I do myself, you're welcome to join as well. Any questions? Oh, wait, one last thought. Since we're on the Thanksgiving theme, I think we decided collectively here a second ago that maybe our team is like the table and the silverware. We're going to stay away from the vegetables.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Emily, and congratulations to you and your team for great audits. That's always great news. And Tracy, why don't you come on up here? I believe birthdays are very important. I mean, each of us have one. And, you know, if you didn't have a birthday, then we wouldn't be able to enjoy the great spirit that you bring to the district. So will everybody please join me in singing happy birthday to Tracy? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tracy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And great job on that audit. At this time, we'll call Emily Paul up for a strategic plan update.
Yes, I want to be embarrassed.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good to see everybody. Oh, somebody's got the clicker. Good. All right. So in your board packets, you will find our October progress and then our plans for the next month. I wanted to highlight a couple things in our October progress. First, you will see 2 bullets that are highlighted. Those are developing messaging points for advocacy priorities and then modifying our district communications based on survey results. Those are a bit delayed, which is okay with me. I would rather them be done well than to rush through them and get them done just for a deadline, so that's okay. But I wanted to alert you to those, that we'll see progress on those in the next month or 2. Some highlights from October progress. Our acronym list, we have assessment done and we are on to adding other teams, and that will be published by December 30th, so it will be in your board materials in your January meeting. We had in operational excellence, we had a really fun staff meeting a couple weeks ago, meant to create awareness of each employee's roles so that everybody's becoming familiar with what everybody's working on and we start to build more of that alignment. And so we played a 2 truths and a lie about our job descriptions, and everybody identified what everybody was doing and working on. We actually had a guest walk in the middle of that, and he said, I really want to be part of that team. It sounded really fun. So that was a fun activity. In internal and external communications, we have begun drafting a quarterly stakeholder letter, and so that plans to go out on November 30th. That's going to go to a couple different bodies. It will go to the State Department of Education, the Education Oversight Committee, and then each of the bodies that has appointed you so that our stakeholders are aware of some highlights and things that are going on in our district. And then in advocacy, we have made a lot of work. Our podcast launched. We actually have 2 episodes published, and we have another one recording today. So that's very exciting. And then I hope you have seen all of our digital brand awareness and social media, website, all of those things. That's continuing. Any questions about October progress?
Who's next on the podcast?
Ellen Weaver is recording today. So very timely, yes. And Chairman Payne, I did go ahead and add initials next to each of the progress. You were asking last month who worked on each of those, so those are in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so where are we going next? A few highlights here. Organizational development, next month, December, we'll have a virtual board meeting where you will get some training from Stan. And then we will also be reviewing our SWOT analysis, and that is to help identify some themes and places where we need to provide professional development for our staff, and then create a plan for the remainder of the year to make sure that we are getting them the right professional development. In internal and external communications, by November 30th, our stakeholder letter will go out, and then we will also be planning on training and implementing our communications plan so that that is coming together a little more. In operational excellence, we will actually be reviewing our strategic plan to see where else we can go with this, because we have met all of the things that I had in our annual plan in that bucket. And then same thing for advocacy. So I'm going to be looking back at our strategic plan and seeing where we can ramp up those two sections. Any questions for me? All right, thank you very much.
Just one quick question. How would you compare this level of effort to 4 years ago?
You put me on the spot.
I think the smiles.
So I would say a little more concerted. I think in the past we maybe were tackling projects based on interests, and I think this has really helped us as a staff be aligned and know where we're going and have the milestones to get there.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. I'm proud of the progress we are making on the strategic plan. My goal was for us to accomplish everything in there within 3 years and not 5 years. So, Emily, let's keep driving forward. I would love for us to start the strategic planning process again next year, and start looking out even further. This plan really was student centric. I think next time we really need to look at how can we start to align instructional best practices and using data and things like that, and have that instructional program alignment through our mission, vision, and values, our budgeting, and then all the way to the school level, and demonstrate that even in an autonomous school environment, we can have alignment in terms of those core things that we believe when it comes to providing each child their opportunity to excel in school. So, and someone who's going to be helping us start working on that now is Dr. Kelly Pugh. Dr. Kelly Pugh was a former school superintendent up in Rock Hill. She lives over in Anderson now, but she's going to be joining our team. She went to NACSA with some of our leaders, and she really is driving the instructional leadership piece. And I think that's where the staff and I need, more training, but I think that's where we have an opportunity with our schools to better align when it comes to instructional programs. The LOIs, I was really excited about the schools that submitted LOIs. I apologize that it was late. There were some problems at the department level, but our team really pursued them in getting the information the other day. I think it's interesting when you look at us versus others. Our platform portfolio of LOIs is very diverse, and that's what we want. I mean, we want to have a diverse portfolio that we can choose from. But as I said earlier, with Liberty STEAM, the torch is high. And to get a charter, they've got to demonstrate a lot of important things, and that capacity, what is their plan to close the achievement gap, those kind of things, governance, finances. I mean, that's really what we're going to be looking for. Tuesday was election day, as you know. I call it Kids First Day. It was a big win for kids. All of our charter champions in South Carolina that ran won. And of course, we're very excited about our next state superintendent, Ellen Weaver. And Ellen will be here this afternoon to sit down and record next week's podcast. The podcast is live today. That will be live at 5 o'clock as one with me and Superintendent Runyon at the Charter Institute at Erskine, and talk about how that relationship has developed and to listen to him share his why. And then last week we had our chairman on, and he explained his why. I hope y'all had an opportunity to listen to that. We offer it on a lot of different platforms. We're keeping it at 30 minutes, and I hope you're finding that it's of value. We're getting a lot of good feedback from people about the podcast, and so we'll continue to do that. We've got our School Leaders Summit coming up on November 17th. Some of you have registered, a few of you haven't. It's pretty much an all-day event. I would encourage you to be here if you can, if for some of it or all of it, if possible. We've got some really good speakers. Ian Rowe, who just recently published the book Agency, is going to be here, and he and Jonathan are going to be collaborating on stage together, and then take some questions from our school leaders. But we're going to have over 108 people here, and I would invite you to join all of us. We had another great networking session with our Green Network of Schools a few weeks ago here at the district office. They're continuing to want to look out at opportunities for growth and to expand their footprint in many of the areas where they currently have schools. We love doing those with our schools and kind of putting our strategic thinking hat on and thinking out, 3, 5, 10 years, where do you want to be? So we love that kind of thing. And then 2 weeks ago, several members of our leaders went up to Minnesota. Sounds like it was already much like winter up there. But they went up to the NACSA conference, and Emily and Emily presented. We're very proud of the great job they did presenting and representing the district up there in Minnesota. And then, we brought back a lot of good best practices and other things, innovative things that we should be doing as authorizers in the state. I talked to you last week or last month about this, the idea of getting back in the classroom. So I've been going out to Midlands Middle College. I taught economics 2 weeks ago, which is a subject I love to talk about. And we had a very interesting discussion about capitalism and socialism. And the kids all decided that choice was what they preferred, and hence they're all going to a charter school. But it's been great to get these young people's feedback and to really have a conversation of learning with them. And I took back a lot of great learning. So it was good to get back in the classroom. And we've got our Kids First radio show that we're doing every Monday. So a few of the folks that we've had on since our last board meeting, we had our first student on this week, Mary Ish. She's a student at Midlands Middle. Mary, she's an exceptional student. She was going to a local high school over in West Columbia. It just didn't connect for her. As she said she was uninspired and she needed something different that was going to connect with her. And she chose Midlands Middle out at Midlands Tech. And now she's thriving. She's got a very high GPA. She works 40 hours a week as a manager at Sonic while she's going to school. She's a leader in the school and just a great voice and representative for really what we're about. So we enjoyed the conversation with Mary. So I'm going to be getting more students and teachers on there. And then Andrew Hart at East Point joined us. And continue to keep Andy in your prayers. He fell off a 10-foot ladder and broke his leg a few weeks ago, so he's been homebound. But he's still called into the radio show, and he did a great job. Janelle Butler, who's a school counselor at Midlands Arts. Janelle, I want to get her in here with all our school leaders. I mean, she is inspiring. But she talked about just kind of the mental state of our kids right now. She's seeing it firsthand as a school counselor. And that's a perspective that we can't lose, that our kids are dealing with not just the academic piece. You got to look at the whole child. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Brian Myrett with York Prep, he joined us for a conversation, and then Robbie Compton at Riverwalk. So we just continue to have some great conversation and let it be an educational opportunity for the listeners of the show. And then we're taking clips from the show as it's translated, and we're putting those out in social media, so Instagram posts, things like that. So it's not just about the Columbia market, it's putting it out on social media and really expanding our reach there. And then we also hosted a Year Zero school workshop that was a lot of great collaboration. These are for those schools that are in Year Zero and will open up next year, so we continue to be inspired by them. And then we hosted a Department of Education Consolidated Federal Programs monitoring visit, which you heard about. And, of course, that all came back on the clear. So we appreciated the collaboration and the opportunity for the department to be in the building and to demonstrate transparency and the good work that the team is doing. And then we've already talked about the audits, but just know that we're going to continue to work with our schools, educate them, educate their auditors, their board chairs and boards on the importance of getting those audits in. It's a requirement in the law. It's transparency, and I think as charter schools, of all schools, we should be the most transparent. That's my belief. And then tomorrow, the building will be closed. It's Veterans Day, so we're going to take time out and honor our veterans, all those who are currently serving and those that have served that are still alive. And I hope each of you will do the same. Mr. Chairman, pending any questions, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? All right, having none, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
And I might add, we do have lunch today, so please join us for lunch in the PD room.
And if I can get your mileage. Yeah. Thank you.